Hey, while we're waiting for last couple of people to come in, I was asked to give a reminder today. It's nothing to do with what we're talking about. Just a reminder, this is the last week of early voting. For those of you that don't know, the vote's getting out pretty good. There's a lot of people voting. And Tina Barrows with the Elections Office wanted me to remind everybody this is the last week of early voting, and that tomorrow is the last day of early voting. So there's only 2 of extended hours, 7 to 7. So you can get a chance, go out there and vote. Well, that's really good timing. Well, I was going to guess it's not Joey's truck. That's okay. We'll go ahead and get started, and if he comes, he comes. I didn't see anybody else on the hallway. Yeah, I don't know. Let's go ahead and get started. I've got 6 o'clock. I think there's nobody out in the hallway. Okay, today our workshop is in reference to the county tax abatement policy. We are here in discussion regarding Orange County tax abatement policy. This is a workshop with regards to the general policy for abatements in Orange County. No specific projects or proposals will be discussed during this workshop. I've got to stress that we're here to talk about our general abatement policy. Now, if you want to use an example from some other county or whatever, that's fine. I don't care about that as long as it's public records. But we're here to discuss what rules, if any, we want to have with regards to our abatement policy. As many of you know, when we discuss a deal with a particular entity, most of the time, all of the prearranged pre-meetings, all this stuff's done in closed session. So, this policy is going to be our guide for what it is you want us to do when it comes to making these deals with these companies. What limits, if any, do you want to impose? What kind of things would you like to see in this policy? And the reason why I and others felt it was so important to have this workshop, and I really wish now I had done it at the Expo Center, is because this affects the entire county. Everybody in this county has a stake in this. I don't care if you rent a place. You rent a place from a landlord who owns a property. They are going to charge you so that they can make a profit. That's what they do. And those taxes are what pays our bills and pays for our infrastructure. So when we decide to make a deal to foster a company maybe coming in, we need to know, do you have a limit on how much we should give, if any? Do we have a limit on how long it should run? What kind of rules do you want us to have? So when we go in closed session, we kind of know what you want, and we don't overstep those bounds. So that's what we're here for today. And I apologize if I don't recognize everybody, but I've already seen some notables. Mayor Nagel, Mayor Spears, Mayor Viator. Who am I missing? Mayor Rutledge. Oh, there you are. Hey, Mayor Rutledge. We got some mayors. And see Councilman Childs. Who else am I missing here? I just want to make sure I don't forget anybody. City Manager, how you doing? You look intense.
Mayor Pro Tem, Oxford's back there.
Oh, hey.
City Council members, West Orange, Bill City, Vider,
Robbie Hill's back there,
from all the schools.
Dr. Patterson, Jay Kilgo, superintendents of Orange, Vider, respectively.
Ms. Soshaw and your president of the Red Orange Chamber. Do we have Bridge City Chamber here? Oh, there we go. Oh, good, excellent. All right. First of all, I want to thank somebody in particular, Ms. Soshaw. I appreciate the heads up on the email. We all forget things. This was originally scheduled on Tuesday, but I did not want to interfere with what's going on at the expo. I believe that's in reference to a long-term recovery. What's the specific name? Help me out again.
It's Take Action Now. It's a Harvard release in the norm. All this month, maybe I can get some help.
And Judge, to that point, in the future, if we could maybe send out an email when we are anticipating one of these meetings to the court, to the city managers, the mayors, to put out a date and get some buy-in, make sure everyone's available that can come. I mean, this is a great turnout, short notice. I appreciate everybody being there, but I think that would be good for us to be able to do something like that in the future, is to suggest a date and see if there's no conflicts with anyone.
I appreciate that, and I don't mind doing that. I would like to add, though, that during the course of Commissioner's Court 2 weeks ago, I did ask for some dates. I waited 8 days. I didn't get any. So if I ask, please send them. If I ask, hey, look, we're going to do this, y'all tell me when you're available, I really appreciate it if somebody take a few minutes and send me a text. I don't care. Anything. Carrier pigeon. But if you've got a specific date you can't do, like, where's Ms. Hill?
She's got
okay, well,
but she's supposed to be here.
For example, Jessica Hill said she wasn't available Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, so I knew those dates were out. And Commissioner Gauthier reminded me intently about hunting season, so I made sure not to use those dates. And I at least remembered Halloween. So, I mean, I was trying my best to get a date we could do this on. There was some concern to get this done quickly. So I want to make sure that we have a chance for everybody to have their say before we go taking the vote. And if I'm not mistaken, there's an agenda item on this tomorrow. So I'm limited in my choices as to when we could have this. So for future reference, it would help a lot if I could get those dates ahead of time, since that was in open court. Having said that, I'm going to turn the floor over. Would you guys like to start with anything, or do you want to start with just listening to the folks, or how do y'all want to go?
Well, our policy as it is now is very open, which I feel we have to have an open policy. We cannot put ourselves in a box by saying there's predetermined limits or matrix or whatever, because we don't know what's coming. We need to give our executive director of Economic Development Corporation free rein. Now, if you want to talk about restrictions, here's where the restrictions happen. She brings us a deal, and we look at it and say, this is way over the top. Go back and see if you can get something better. We're giving away too much. So this is where the restrictions happen, but we don't want to have it out in the market that Orange County is not easy to do business with. They've got restrictions set up in advance. Who knows who will lose that won't even come talk to us because of things like that. So we want to keep this wide open on the front end, talk to as many people as we can, and then when we get these abatement programs, it's brought to us here at this court, input from the cities, and then we decide if this is a good deal or not. That's the way it happens in the past. I think it's worked well for us. We're always able to deliberate here on whether or not. We've had people come in and said, I don't think it's fair, I want to give you more. That's happened here in the last 3 months. So it goes both ways. So I just think that this is a poor idea to start out with a policy that sets pre-existing limitations and conditions.
And I agree with that. The other piece of that is you show what you're willing to give. It gives your competition a leg up on you that they know where you're at. And so I think it's much better if we hold this, close it, leave it open. As you said, a court can decide where they want to be. The other part of that is any future court can vote on one agenda item to change the policy and vote on the agenda item next. So it's just a false limitation anyway, because any future courts can change that as they deem necessary. So I think, I'd much rather keep it wide open in giving our EDC director the freedom to negotiate the best deal for us and bring it back to us, and like you said, we can go yay or nay.
Yeah, and I want to kind of follow up with that too, that I think it's important, that our EDC, which we entrust with kind of going out and chasing business with us, but that they have some flexibility in that. The state has already guidelines in place that our policy currently follows, the state guidelines. To Commissioner Trahan's point, if you put limitations lower than that, then you're playing your cards ahead of time, and you're not letting yourself have the ability to negotiate on your own. At the end of the day, even whenever some of these things to the judges' comments about, we do a lot of that stuff in closed session, the discussions in closed sessions, but before we actually vote on whatever abatement we give, we bring it to the court in open court, and then we vote on it in open court. So there's no secrets at that point. It's all open. It's transparent at that point. But there's reasons that companies are behind the scenes doing the stuff up until that point, till they're ready for it to go, because of lots of various reasons. But there's, we could spend all night doing that. But I think it's important that we give our EDC the opportunity to negotiate on our behalf with different size companies and any company with what we have, when we follow those guidelines until we get it to here, and then we can change them. It's no different than, I look at it's no different than buying a car. You go out and you buy a car, you go buy it somewhere else, you go buy it because, when you ask 99% of people why they bought it there, because that's where I got the best deal. Well, we want to be the best deal. We want to be the best deal, and the only way we get to do that is if we get a chance to sit at the table with them, and if we play those cards out early by putting restrictions that we don't need to put on there, because they're already in place at the state level, that we limit ourselves, and I just don't want us to limit ourselves. I think that we look around over the last 15, 20 years, I could probably go back farther than that, at Orange County's lack of growth and lack of opportunity is because we haven't as aggressively chase this stuff as we're doing now. I don't want to limit that now that we've finally got momentum going our way, or trying to get momentum going our way. We've got to be more diligent than the next town. And so, I think that to Commissioner Berg's point, we have a good policy that we have in place now that we can adjust if we need to, depending on the business that comes in. But until that point, I think it's important that we keep it as flexible as possible to give us negotiating power to do what we need to do to bring businesses. Every single entity in Orange County, down to the individual taxpayer, benefits when something comes here. And it's not always about the property value, it's about what it brings with it, with jobs, and people that move here because of those jobs, and the people that come here and stay while they're doing those jobs, and staying in our hotels and in our restaurants, and spending their money while they're here. There's more to it than just the real property value. The tax abatement just gives us an opportunity to get them here first, and then everything else follows. And so, I just want us to make sure that we're keeping our options open as we can for a town our size, that we don't limit ourselves. So that's my take.
Well, obviously, for us to have a debate, we have to have 2 points of view. Mine, of course, is a little bit different. Now, the first thing I need to do before I go any further about this, I got to ask some questions about some just generic information. This morning, for instance, I got asked, what's an abatement? So this is, we're all on the same sheet of music here. Most of y'all here have been doing this a long time. Y'all know all this, just bear with me. But basically, an abatement is an incentive. It's an incentive for somebody to come in. When, just real quick, how many business owners do we have here that have businesses in Orange County? Okay, great. We got a lot of business owners. Of those business owners that are there, put your hand back up if you own the property you're at. I'll just make it real simple. Okay. All right, so we got a bunch of business owners here that own property, which means every year you pay taxes on that property. Please raise your hand if you don't pay your taxes. Karen, you ready? All right.
Take names.
Okay, so everybody videoing these. So everybody's paying their taxes. Now, the question is, why, all of you that raise your hands, and you don't have to say nothing, but think to yourself, why on earth are you doing it? Well, you're paying taxes for a reason. It's not because you're just really rich. Well, maybe Brad, but most of the rest of you aren't just really rich and want to just give your money away. So you're paying taxes because, first of all, it's the law. You've got to pay your taxes. And secondly, you're paying taxes because that's how we do our business. Everybody in here that's an Orange County resident, everybody in here wants sheriff's department. They want their courts to function. They want, when they come to pay their taxes, for it to be organized when they show up here. The mayor's here. Y'all all have property taxes in your cities. But who first physically collects that money? We've got an office right back there. Karen will tell you exactly how it works. We have to pay these people. We also have drainage, roads. I don't see Clark Slapin here. But we have to maintain those county roads, just like cities are maintaining their city streets. All of these things cost money. All of these things are part of our infrastructure. So when a business comes in, when a home comes in, doesn't make any difference. When taxes are paid, property taxes are paid to the county. These things are what they're used for. An abatement is an incentive. You don't have to pay this bill for X amount of time, or on a sliding scale, or however it gets drawn up. You don't have to pay that for a while if you're billed here in Orange County. It's basically that simple. So the question becomes, when something moves in, does it add to the infrastructure? Well, the obvious answer is, of course, yes. Even a house adds to the infrastructure. Everything that gets built adds to the infrastructure. If we were to build, and this is something else I'd like to point out. We don't build anything. I mean, we work on county stuff, county roads and so forth, but businesses build. Home developers build. Homeowners build. But what we're doing is giving them an incentive. We don't create these things. We try to incentivize them. We try to give them an environment in which they want to be here. So to do that, what are they going to do? They're going to look around for, what does Orange County have to offer me? Well, an abatement's a good thing, but they also probably want good drainage and good roads, and they don't want a crime rate that's through the roof. All of those things cost money. So when it comes down to it, all these people that come in that are going to either work there permanently or that are going to be just workers while the construction's going on, these are all people. They're human beings. They come in with their own set of issues. Some of them are going to park in a parking lot and get their car busted into. We're going to have to go out and investigate that. Some of them are going to be driving around, hit a wet spot, and get into a wreck. We've got to respond to that. Some of them are going to have a civil action, and they're going to have to go to the district clerk's office or the county court and deal with whatever that is. Some of them are going to need our guidance with regards to taxes, and people are paid in there to give them that guidance. All of this costs money. So when all these people come in, they also come in with bills attached to them. And the better the services we provide, the better we are. The more people want to live here. The more people want to live here, the more business wants to be here. If any of y'all that have a business, let me just put it to you this way. Went to a dinner not too long ago. A large business in the area was talking about their most important concerns. It wasn't abatements. It wasn't land. It wasn't even the EPA. It was workforce. They wanted a good, quality, reliable workforce. They wanted people, because that's their most expensive bill. So, to get those people in, we want good, quality, reliable people. Well, good, quality, reliable people also want to live in a nice place. That costs infrastructure. We can give abatements, we can give incentives. I don't think there's a whole lot of people arguing that. The question is, how long can we go without collecting from some of these entities, these businesses, the manufacturing? Heck, I'd like to see Amazon show up, frankly. But how long can we go before we really need to start collecting from them so we can keep up with the added challenges to our infrastructure? That's a question. That's a serious question. Vider, if you don't mind me saying, Vider has a I guess it's still brand new, spanking Super Walmart. They put in a detention pond to help with the drainage, right?
Required by the drainage district.
And I think that's wonderful. And they maintain it. Not the drainage district, Walmart. But at a certain point, a detention pond, you got to pump that out, or it's basically just a big hole. It only works once. So when they pump it out, it goes into the drainage system. We have to maintain that. All of these things are extra bills that also come with anybody moving in. So what I'm asking y'all tonight is to take all this into consideration and try to determine where you want that line to be, if any. Now, Texas has put some limitations themselves. 312 of the tax code limits 10 years. You cannot do an abatement for longer than 10 years. I've actually spoken with legal at TAC. I did it for two reasons. One is because they're great advice and we pay for it. But the other reason is the fellow that I'm speaking to, his name is Jim Allison. He is actually, this was kind of his thing for a long time, was EDC. He set up economic development corporations, and he has experience in this area. And his response was real simple. There is no exception to the 10 years. An abatement can only last 10 years. Even if you go under 381, which is these terms are going to be thrown around, so I'm telling you ahead of time. 381 is 381 of the local government code. 381 that's entitled the county. When 381 discusses what the rules are for the county as far as the duration, it refers to 312. There isn't an exception that we can find that has abatements for longer than 10 years. Now, there was discussion of rebates under 381. I looked through that just so I could educate myself, and I cannot find rebate in there anywhere. It does talk about loans and grants of public money, but that's a separate issue beyond an abatement. So when we have this discussion in a minute, if you have any questions specific to that, we do have the law, we do have our legal advisor. If it's a legal question about what can we do, that would be a good time to have it. As a matter of fact, if you'd like to give you want to give a brief thumbnail so people might already know what it says, save some questions later, or do you want to do them as they come up?
It's such a broad thing that I would really rather just address individual questions as they arise.
One of the things that I did during the course of my research was to look up all of this. These are other counties, Montgomery County, Galveston County, Nacogdoches County, the city of Victoria, just so I can get some cities in there too, Tarrant County. Every one that I've found does indeed in writing restrict themselves. Usually they restrict themselves to the legal limit, which is 10 years. They have others. Galveston, for instance, does 7 years. They also give us some ideas on other things we can do. It was discussed a minute ago about a matrix. Montgomery County has that listed in theirs. You're welcome to take a look at it, but just to give you an idea of what that is, since it came up a minute ago, a matrix is simply this. For Montgomery County, and I quote, if they meet all the other requirements and they're eligible for an abatement, a business from a $1 million to $4 million footprint that is going to employ at least 10 full-time people is eligible for 1 year at 100%, the second year 75, third year 50, year 4 25, and then they pay their taxes just like everybody else. Category B is 4 million to 8 million, at least 20 full-time employees. You get 2 years at 100%, then 80, 60, 40, 20, then they pay for their full taxes, etc. Till finally you get to a $25 million company with 40 employees or more, and then they can be eligible. Now that doesn't mean they're going to get it, but if the Commissioner's Court decides, then they can get up to 10 years, 100%. These are all just things you can look at. Galveston County actually has one in there that bases theirs both on the footprint and the taxes, but it also bases it on the workers. If they have, for instance, 100 employees that are coming in there, the only way you can get the 100% abatement is if 76 or more of your permanent employees are Galveston County residents. They wanted to make sure they were employed. These aren't things that we have to do, but these are certainly things that are options. One thing I would say is if we have restrictions on our abatement policy, and I went through all that just to say this, if we have restrictions on our abatement policy, we won't be the first. We won't be the 5th. We won't be the 30th. There's tons of them out there with restrictions. So I want to make it clear that those choices are up to the citizens of this county. And I'm not trying to call anybody out or say anything bad, but one of the things that really kind of concerned me was there's an issue with us saying, well, we don't want to limit ourselves. I'm going to tell you right now, however much it may hurt me later, I do want to limit ourselves. And not only that, I'm not alone. If anybody in here has read a little piece that was written some time ago called the U.S. Constitution, that limits government. It doesn't limit you. It limits government. I think there ought to be some boundaries. That's why the tax code 312 was written. I think there should be some boundaries that we have to abide by so we don't go overboard either direction. So we got some bumpers to kind of deal with these decisions that come up, because sometimes that brass ring looks so enticing, we give away everything to get it. I don't want to get in that boat. Even if it works out for us eventually, I don't want to do it, and then the people that hired me to do this job are upset with the decision that I made. Judge, you went too far. What's your problem? Tell me now what that is, and I'll make sure that I don't go too far. Having said all that, I know it was kind of long because I talk a lot. I'll shut up now. Is there anybody that would like to address the court?
Before, we are the bumpers. We're the ones who control that, and your scenario earlier, to take it full circle, you're acting like, or the scenario is like, this company comes in a vacuum. There is revenue generated to that company that we will see, that will pay for those things you're talking about. There are people buying groceries, houses, cars. They're spending money here. Our sales tax revenue will go up. Our property tax revenue will go up. So it's not in a vacuum that we just have this hole where nothing happens but we're spending more money. There is an offset of revenue that comes with these things.
And also, the piece about not everything that a company does is always, not all of it is abated. There's a different thing, there's parts of that they will pay as it goes. There's a lot of things to go, so it's not a complete, free ride on their part. They will have to pay some money in the interim on different things that they're doing out there. I will like to add, though, as we get ready to get into the public comments, I know that the judge said it earlier, but please, we cannot be, we cannot be, I know there's some rumors going around about different things happen. We cannot be specific, project specific. Please keep that in mind. There's reasons for that. We don't want to violate those rules, so let's make sure that whatever you say is in general terms, and we're good with that, but please do not reference a specific project. If you want to talk about something happening outside the county, that's fine, but we just need to make sure that, we just need to make sure, and the judge mentioned, but I want to make sure we said that again as we get in public deal, because that is very important as we move forward, that we don't violate that, so.
Okay. And one last little bit of housekeeping. If you want to speak, you have to come up to the lectern. That mic doesn't amplify your voice, so speak up so that people can hear you. You can turn around and talk to them. Just stay around that mic. Identify yourself. And, if you're representing someone else, if you're representing a company or you're representing a city, please say so. If you're an Orange County resident, just say Orange County resident. Okay? And that way we can have it, because our county clerk is reporting this workshop. So, I'm sorry now. Mayor?
Thank you, Judge. David Rutledge, Mayor of Bridge City. I'd like to echo the sentiments of the commissioners on the court. I believe we also should not restrict our EDC in negotiating any kind of contract or future future businesses moving in. It's kind of like, to me, it's kind of like we own a prize fighter, and we're going to send this prize fighter into a ring with one hand tied behind their back, and then tell the opponent, oh yeah, and they got a glass jaw. My fighter's got a glass jaw. We don't want to do that. We don't want to restrict how we project ourselves to the potential businesses that may come in. We'll never know if we miss one. We'll never know. They may just pass us by, because they'll look at our policy and say, oh, they got it restricted to 3 years or whatever, some number.
I've got this beat somewhere else.
Yeah, so we won't even look there. We're going to look down in Galveston County. We'll look over in Jefferson County. We don't need to hit ourselves in the jaw right off the bat. We need to have the flexibility to do what we can do to attract good businesses to this area. And I believe on these abatements, there's also, you don't necessarily abate the value of the land that they're going to build this project on, or this distributor, or whatever their business is. You don't get, they don't abate those taxes are not forgiven. It's only on the improvements to that property, and like you said, the Constitution has its limits. Well, so does the state law. 10 years is maximum, and that doesn't necessarily mean that's what's negotiated, but that gives us a little bit of freedom. There are limits, and the check and balance is right here, these 5 members of this court, right here, for any future dealings. So we gotta understand there are checks that will keep us within reasonable bounds, but for goodness sakes, let's don't hamstring this whole deal before we get going on it. And you were talking about the infrastructure and how if they come in and they start using our infrastructure and they're not paying any appreciable amount of taxes, well, that's not true, because when they bring people in or when they start multiplying our business, our sales of our businesses, that also adds to our sales tax revenue. The people moving in add to our city taxes, for example, where I'm most interested. And they will pay those city taxes. They are going to look for good housing, like you talked about. That gives us more city taxes. So it's a win for us. This little piddling amount that we're talking about, a few years of abatement, I don't see that as being a problem. To me, it's like, when I went to work, I started putting money into a savings account, a 401k type account. I'm not going to get to see it for a long time, but eventually, that's going to pay off to me, and that's what I'm putting that money in for. I'm not putting it in for tomorrow, I'm not putting it in for next year. I'm putting it in for when I retire, I will have some money that I can work with, and that's exactly what this is to me. It is a retirement plan, so to speak. It's a savings account that we can depend on going forward. And I think we ought to be very cautious about restricting how we put money into that savings account.
May I ask you a couple questions?
Yes, sir.
For you? The first question is, okay, you talked about we already have some restrictions based on state law. Our current policy doesn't even reflect those. Should we have that in our current policy? And by the way, if you don't mind, part of the reason I'm asking you, and I want to tell everybody, is because it's my understanding that most, if not all, of the municipalities adopt our abatement policy, at least close to it, once we adopt one. Am I correct on that?
I assume so, yes.
I mean, that's what I was told a couple of weeks ago. So my question is then, would you have a problem with actually writing that restriction, just the legal restriction of the 10 years, in our policy? Our current one doesn't.
Why do we need a redundant restriction in there? It's already state law. We have to abide by the state law.
Well, because in the Commissioner's Court 2 weeks ago, it was suggested that under 381, we could have a 20, 30, or 40-year abatement. I even suggested, what if we had 100 years? And
2 different programs.
I understand that, but they aren't exactly mutually exclusive. One refers back to 312. So I think there is a legal limit, and perhaps, since I can see it right now, I don't know every law. So when we go into commissioners, to a closed session with the commissioners, I'm sure we'll at least have our abatement policy, at least that will remind us, hey, we can't go over this.
Or it might help us to investigate what the law is for counties, for example. County restrictions.
Ms. Brennan could probably answer any questions if that is in printed law as to what we're discussing.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Denise, and then I'll just say. I was just saying, the only thing is, on the state law part of it, the only opposition that I would have to actually writing that specific to it is because every 2 years they go into session, and you just never know what comes out of that. So every time they would change it, we would have to change it, it'd be more like if we just said we're going to follow state law as far as the program was, but to actually put the number in there, because it changes. And it hasn't for a while, but it could, and then we'd end up having to come right back here and do this again. And so the idea is that we know that we can't go past that 10 years on the 311 program, or the 312. So the 381 is a whole different program. It's a different policy altogether, and it does have some flexibility in the number of years that we can go there. And again, that's a negotiating tool that we have at our disposal to be able to get something, because I think that any of us sitting in here that's in business or in school districts, whatever it is, it doesn't matter what your taxing entity is, as a homeowner, the only way that we have a chance of reducing those rates and providing sheriff's department, providing good employee benefits, and providing drainage is we got to grow. We got to grow, and the only way we're going to grow is to actively go out and recruit business and actively have that business want to come here. Everything else, I got to tell you guys, I got to believe that if every other place around us is doing it right now, and everybody else is blowing up around us, If they can figure it out, by God, we can figure it out. And, you know, I'd like that to be the problem first. You know, so that's my deal. So that's kind of the thing about it as far as actually putting that number in it. I'd rather just follow the state law as it is and let that be what we follow.
Yeah, and as far as what you said, Judge, about not knowing everything, I've been involved in the EDC for almost 4 years. I don't know it all. That's why we have an EDC professional, this well-versed, and that's why the EDC has legal counsel themselves to review all these things. And then we have the backstop that come into the county. So, you know, we don't have to know all those things. We've got professionals that know this, and we need to trust them to give us the right guidance.
Well, then let me ask that, because if we do, then I would like to know, under what law can we go beyond 10 years? Can somebody answer that? Because I couldn't find it, so. I'm sorry.
I said that, yeah.
Anyway.
I'll be happy. Jessica Hill, Orange County Economic Development Corporation, Executive Director.
Yeah.
I'm working my way up there.
Okay.
She's gonna have her jogging shoes on apparently.
Speak a little loudly. Under Chapter 381, there are no limitations as to how long you can go on an incentive other than a tax abatement. If you do a tax abatement, under Chapter 381, it reverts back to Chapter 312, which limits the incentive to 10 years and 100%.
So what's the incentive if it's not an abatement?
A rebate,
A rebate?
or a grant,
A grant.
or a loan, or bonds.
And so, just so that I make sure I'm understanding what you're saying, then past 10 years, a company comes in, they actually owe us the money, they got a 10-year abatement or whatever. After 10 years, then they are required to pay us their tax, but then we turn around and grant them that money back,
Potentially,
and we can do that for as long as we want.
potentially.
Under the 381.
I have to ask, because this was discussed earlier, is that what Section 8 says?
I disagree with that reading of 381. I think 381.004G refers specifically to a program operating under 381.004B, which is what the program under 381.004 allows, and it references its program, specifically is the term. 381 subsection G says that it is applicable, says that it reverts back to 312 as far as the limitations, including duration. So my personal opinion, and there is no law, there's no AG opinion, this is uncharted as far as written law is concerned. My interpretation of 381 is that it is subject to the same restrictions, whether anything you call it, it's still a program under 381, so it's still subject to the same 10-year restrictions, in my opinion.
And I would add that I have another opinion here. This is from Jim Allison at TAC. According to this, 381.004, the Commissioner's Court may develop and administer a program authorized by subsection B for making loans and grants of public money and providing personnel and services of the county for 381.004B to stimulate business and commercial activity in a county. The Commissioner's Court of the county may develop and administer a program for state or local economic development. His response: Judge Crooks, I have heard the interpretation that 381 allows unlimited rebates. I have never seen it in a written opinion. Our firm believes that that interpretation would violate the constitutional requirements. Jim Allison. And added to this from the Texas Legal Guide, any obligations of a county, municipality, or other political subdivision of the state that are issued for the purposes of making loans or grants in connection with a program authorized by the legislature under this section and that are payable from ad valorem taxes must be approved by a vote of the majority of registered voters of the county, municipality, or political subdivision voting on the issue. Looking at that, and this is why I say, and look, and I'm not throwing stones at anybody, this is why I think we ought to address this stuff in the politics. Because if we can get this answer, and again, it may take some more research to get there, but if we can get this answer, whatever it is, then we know for a fact what we put down is legal. And it's not, there's a lot of weight on this, because it's not just ours. It's every one of the city councils if they adopt this policy. And I don't want to throw them under the bus either. So I want to make darn sure it's legal. Right now, we have two different opinions in this room.
Well, and as the professional economic developer here, that is charged with making recommendations to the Commissioner's Court based on my experience and education, I would never bring to you the recommendation of an indefinite abatement or rebate. However, whatever recommendation I bring to the court, you have every opportunity to approve it, discard it, amend it. It's up to you.
Well, and I would also like to add that there are several counties across the state of Texas that are currently operating under a 381 that is longer than the 10 years, that are operating currently now and have been for years, and there's been no legal challenge to those. So we may never find something that says it is, but we haven't found anything that says it isn't either. So, I mean, when it comes to that, because I would think if there was something wrong with it, there'd be a challenge to it. And we haven't seen a challenge in those areas either, where those companies that have went into those particular areas are operating under, and they're able to operate. So, you know, I have to agree with Jessica as far as, I don't, you know, we have to have the faith that when she brings us something, it's her due diligence will be done. I can tell you everything in my experience of dealing with her at this point is that I think that that's fully what she would do and has done. And so, you know, we have to know that that's what's going to take place. And again, when we're talking about the limitations, we need to leave those open to let that legal jurisdiction take its place as we move forward with whatever one it is. And, because to say that we're going to limit it without knowing for sure, we don't know. And so I would rather still leave it open as it is in our current policy right now. It's been in our policy for years that way. I mean, and so.
And I think that makes it just maybe actually for not setting, because there's different opinions. I think you just made a case for not setting limits, because each one of these projects needs to be looked at individually on its own merits, researched to find out what we can do.
Okay, well, let me ask you something, because, actually, no, this is for you, if you don't mind. The policy, I'm sorry, this is real quick, the policy that we're looking at, the one you sent in, when was that policy written?
The one from 2013?
Yeah.
2013, I guess.
Okay.
That's the date on it.
Okay. How long is a policy good for?
It's my understanding 2 years.
Okay. So, and again, and please don't take this, I'm not putting on you, things happen.
County's policy, so it's
Right.
nothing on me.
Well, and that's my point. We keep being told what the EDC is going to tell us, but you're right. You're 100% right. It's not the EDC policy. It's the county's policy. The county's policy has been out of date since 2015. We didn't catch that.
She's the one that told us.
In 2018.
Yeah, well, she caught it.
So what if we don't catch something that, exactly, that's my point. So what if we don't catch something in this closed session and we end up doing something? We can't go back later and tell this company, oh, King's X, we was wrong.
Well, because at that point, we have our legal counsel present. We've had the recommendation from what our economic development company, the company would be there at that point. I mean, you know.
Do our homework first?
No.
Yeah, that won't give us y'all's opinion.
Yeah, well,
hang on 1 second, Mayor. I promise you. We're going to be here a little bit. I promise.
We came out to give you their opinion. I said everyone you can to them.
Okay. Well, that's a good point, too.
thank you, Justice.
You're welcome. Madam Mayor.
Mayor, congratulations. Thank you.
How y'all doing today? How's everybody doing today? How you doing? My name is Larry Spears Jr. I live at 2101 Yukon in the greatest city in the county. Actually, what I wanted to say is I understand everyone's point of view. Judge, I understand your point of view. What I wanted to get up was maybe say something on a little bit of a different note. I think that from what I've talked to with our EDC director, Jay Trahan, is that this is on an every 2 years, renewed and looked at every 2 years. So maybe since that's the way it works, maybe let's go ahead and let's try to keep it open until the next time it comes up for review, because I truly think that we are at a pivotal spot here where in my last year or two of being on council and now in the position of mayor, I've got a chance to meet so many people who are here, and I truly feel like everyone is on the same page and we're really positive and we're all pushing for progress and for growth. We got promotional videos coming out. We got people coming to meetings that never wanted to be involved before. And I think that our businesses that are looking in on this want to see how we're acting. And for the first time in a long time, I think we're really treating each other like we all want to work together. So maybe let's just hold off on changing anything, leaving it as open as we possibly can to let them know that, hey, we want you to come no matter what if we can do it, we want you to come. My jeans aren't tight because I don't like to eat. I love to eat. So I'm going to frequent the restaurant business. And my pockets are empty because my kids love going places. So if we can bring people to come in and give us a chance, let's not stop that. And I truly think that in the next 2 to 4 years, we will see some growth. Right now, I don't think any city is just experiencing this exponential growth. So if we're not bringing these people in, I don't want to hurt that by saying let's add more restrictions to it. So let's just be positive. Let's keep it open, and then let's maybe wait and see if it changes. And then the next time it's up for review, we can look at it then. So thank you.
I was gonna say, Robert, I hope you were next.
I actually, everybody knows I'll be coming to the court in January.
Oh, and by the way, the seat is empty, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mayor, Commissioner, but, Commissioner Crump did send me a text. He had a previous engagement he could not get out of. That's why he's.
He sent me the same text. I'm in agreement with the 3 commissioners that spoke. My question, I don't think we ought to limit ourselves either. I mean, the limit comes from the court, the people entrusted in you, they voted you in. A deal comes to the court decides whether it benefits the county. The question I have though is, we went through what some would say a pretty heated budget meeting over the EDC. Now here we are talking about abatements, and discussion's always good. But what kind of image are we putting out? What kind of message are we sending outside this county? The bottom line, it comes down to, are we open for business or are we not? And that's the court's decision is going to have to make. If you're going to put out restrictions out there that you won't cross this or you will cross that, what business is going to look at that and say, better than that, let's say you put out there, you put an 80% limit on it, or you put a 7-year, whatever that limit is. Well, if I'm sitting in another county, make no mistake about it, counties are at war with each other. So, if I'm sitting in another county, whatever restrictions you just put on it, I'll try to go 5% higher, or 1 year longer. And big business, basically, they limit it down to 2 or 3 logistical sites that work for them logistically wise. And then some gives them the best. Because they're going to go to a site that works for them, and they're going to take the best deal. So, let's don't tie our EDC's hands. Let's let the court, who's elected to decide what's best for the county in that direction, settle it. And let's advertise that we're open for business.
Well, I just want to say, Mayor, you're so right. It's not about who has the nicest people. I mean, Orange County's full of great folks. It's a business decision. And it's not black and white, it's black and red, profit and loss. And that's how these folks make their decisions. And because we have counties all up and down this coast that has water. They have pipelines. They have a skilled workforce. We're in competition, folks, and the competition is very fierce right now. We got I like that. We need to make people know, let them know we're open for business and we're not restricted. Mayor?
Mayor Nigel from the city of Pine Forest. My city hasn't seen a lot of growth, but I hope in the future that we will be able to, and I just want it known that I am totally in agreement with Mayor Rutledge, Mayor Spears, and Mayor Viator. So, and I'm sure Mayor Stevenson, if she was here, would be in agreement with us all. So, I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
So while we're waiting for our next speaker, I would like to point out something that I don't want to hit on too hard, but just so y'all are aware, and I appreciate that, Mayor Viator and the rest of the mayors that spoke, but y'all are talking about we don't want to restrict us because we want to grow. Well, we haven't been restricted since 2013. there is no change in the restrict. Matter of fact, there might be more. This is as far as the policy we're here to discuss, this is the same policy as 2013. There has been no change in that. So, I mean, we're not seeing the people just coming in because we don't have these restrictions. I'm not saying that we need to go and restrict further, but I'd also point out that a whole lot of places do put the law into their policy, and they seem to be growing. So, I mean, it's not a dogfight. I don't want anybody to leave here thinking, well, if we do this and we don't put anything in there, that people are just gonna be driving in Mack trucks building buildings. I don't want people to think that.
Jack Patel. I've been 24 years in Orange. I'm giving an opinion from a business point of view, not from a politics point of view, because fortunately all the people that work in the politics were financially okay with that, but I'm actually talking from an owner point of view. It's very hard. This town has not improved for years. A good example, like you mentioned earlier, on sulfur. We lost Cracker Barrel a long time ago and made a bad decision. Nothing was in sulfur. Cracker Barrel came with everything, and it's actually overgrown. We can't afford to make a mistake like that. We have to think like business and think about the people who live in this town. The property tax, we can't afford it. If we don't have businesses coming in our hotels, we'll die. And this town has not grown. If you look in the history, we've not improved. We're actually suffering. We have to make some chances and some gambles and make this happen. And the sulfur is a very good example. It's happened, it's proof. They took a chance to put Cracker Barrel. There's nothing there at all. It's just an industrial thing. Then all the restaurants followed. Likewise in housing, jobs, everything will follow. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, is there any discussion from the Commissioners' Court? Oh, well. Just throw your hand up, it's okay.
My name's Mayor Viator.
Foreshadowing?
No. I just want to speak a little bit related to, some general principles.
Mark, if you would, go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name's Mark Viator. I'm the Director of Government Affairs for Jefferson Energy, and we have made some significant investments in Orange County the last few years. Capital-intensive industry pays the largest percentage of property tax in Texas. For companies such as ours and others to invest in capital projects, it's important that companies generate a return on investment as soon as possible. Property taxes are major expenses in operations. Insurance, property taxes, and your manpower are some of the three top expenses that we face. Tax abatements allow companies the ability to get a faster return on investment, and tax abatements are important to companies' decisions of where to expand and to invest future capital expansions for the future. We can talk about Montgomery County tax abatements, Galveston County tax abatements, but let me say, we're not competing with Texas counties. It may be such as it relates to the 313 or the 381 agreements that are legislated by Austin, but we're competing with Louisiana. If you go, or any other state for that matter. And so really we have a global competition of where to have dollars invested. And so if you think in terms of going to Louisiana and asking them, I can tell you by experience, I went to Louisiana. Jay, you remember?
Yes, sir.
When we were looking at for our 313 agreement?
Yes, sir.
You remember they required that they asked the question, did you go and look anywhere else? Or our company was a small company. We weren't like we have the capacity we do now as investors. But we went to Louisiana, Baton Rouge, and on a $350 million project, they offered us $53 million in tax incentives. $53 million. So I just want to say, we would love to
Wouldn't it be wonderful to have a piece of property and have a Buc-ee's as people came in from Louisiana? To be able to have, to generate some tax revenue?
I'll sell my house.
Right now. But the point is, now, maybe, you could be thinking in terms of incentives, not restrictions, but incentives, because I've been dealing with tax abatement since about 1998 when BASF built a steam cracker just over the bridge in Jefferson County. That's how long I've been dealing with tax abatement. And what happens is that if you think in terms of providing incentives, what a county wants is they want to know that you're going to bring jobs, that you're going to employ their residents. Those residents are going to go and buy houses, and they're going to buy things like trucks and cars and pay, and can generate sales tax, pay property tax, buy groceries. I went down to Fort Cochon after the BP incident, and those you should have heard those Cajuns down there. The grocery store owners were saying, "Hey, I'm not in the grocery business. I'm in the offshore drilling business. That's where I make all my money." And the same thing is true. How are we going to generate? This is the time to generate, to expand. If you look on the Neches River ship channel, Orange County has a vast amount of land that could be expanded. And to bring in capital-intensive industry will bring you a greater tax base. But think in terms of incentives. Part of the thing that needs to be looked at is, how do you define local? When Jefferson started looking at this, we defined local for ourselves, not because it was restricted on us. We define local as, where is the company located? If you're in Baton Rouge, I don't consider that local. Where do the owners live? What's the percentage of your workforce that's in the 9-county region? Or a percentage of Orange County? How many of those people are paying taxes? What's needed in Southeast Texas is for companies to allow capacity to be built. We hired STI. And STI is an Orange County company. You have an office in Bridge City, Orange, on West Orange. I mean, that's who built our terminals. And so when you have that, you build capacity, and it's not just doing it. It's not just giving a little tax abatement here. And for that matter, you still pay taxes, right, Jay?
Yes, sir.
So I just want to say, think in terms of maybe if there's a way to incentivize companies that the more local people you hire, maybe you got something where you're able to get some type of bonus, or more people. You get a base tax abatement, but then if you perform even more, you want return on investment.
I get asked this a lot, but I work here, so I don't represent a company that has received an abatement in Orange County. You do?
Yes, sir.
So I'm gonna kind of throw this to you, because I can't answer for you. So what would you say as a representative of a company that received, I believe you'll have a 10-year, 100% tax abatement with Orange County? What would you say to business owners, regardless of whether they're the same kind of business or not, that came in, built, did everything, didn't get anything? What do you tell them?
So I can't. I think that's apples and oranges. What I mean by that is, we've invested $500 million, and we hope to invest even, perhaps double that. And so I can't give an answer to that, because that's not, you're the one that has to give that response. I'm not in that position, and so, I know you'd like for me to be, but
No, I asked you because you said a moment ago that industry accounts for the bulk.
We do.
Of the
state of Texas, capital intensive.
But I'm not interested in Waco, just Orange County. So in Orange County,
Who's expanding, who's expanding, we're not talking about specifics, but there are a couple of few companies that are expanding and that are growing. And part of that's because of the EDC and having.
well, I'm trying to figure out what to tell my small businesses, since they are the bulk of the work and the
The
taxes.
key thing to do is, we heard from one.
I think the key is they're gonna do more business because you're gonna have more people in town.
That's the thing, because a rising tide lifts all boats. I mean, if you have a lot of industrial activity, these outlying companies.
Well, for every one manufacturing job,
Are gonna,
there are, economic development indicates there are 5 to 7 ancillary jobs.
yes.
And so,
One point I wanted to bring up is that, I was thinking this the other day, my father-in-law, I think, was one of the original DuPont hirees. And I think that was 57, some of you folks out there might know better than me, I don't know the exact date, but that was a long time ago. The point I'm making is once you build these facilities, they're there for a long time. And we get taxes off those, we generate jobs, there's a lot of people that send their kids to college, they bring their families out to eat, they buy gas, they do all those things, and that money circulates through our community continually. So, this abatement is a set period, whatever period it happens to be, but those facilities are there for almost forever, so it's a thing to keep in mind.
I am small business in Orange. I own several companies here in Orange.
Ted, go ahead. Give your name.
Chad Havens, I own Bridgeville Electric, Precision Hydrovac, Integrity Principles, Excellent Investments. A lot of you know me from the T2 Event Center. I own the only covered arena in the town. Looking back to the comment a little bit ago about 2013 and the growth, I knew the EDC director that was here in 2013. I feel like we finally have a director here that has us moving forward on a path. I think limiting those actions, that's what you people are for, not for the black and white paper. Just what she was saying, it's up to her to put together the deal that she thinks she can sell. It's just like anything else in business, and she brings it to the board. You guys are the board. Y'all are the approval process for that, to see what we can do, and to also put the terms and conditions in there for that. There's a lot of things that me being a business owner, and I own one of the largest I&E construction companies in Texas. Sorry we missed out on Jefferson. We've been very busy. But trying to tie those purse strings down, and not really focusing on the terms and conditions. And I think that's really a private meeting for y'all. I mean, if you want some input from the public, one of the things you brought up earlier, somebody asked you what an abatement is. Well, most people don't know what an abatement is, so I'm not sure why we're having a public hearing in the first place about this. This could have been handled a lot differently moving forward. Those terms and conditions, and using the local labor, using the local companies, putting penalty clauses. I've actually, recently spoken with Jeff Brannick. I own Spelltop Insurance too. In Jefferson County. So anyway, so I have some Jefferson County things going on too, and he recently had a discussion with, I'm not going to throw names out, but there were some abatement issues where some of the terms and conditions weren't followed, and that judge took it upon himself to go out there and say, hey guys, y'all aren't following these conditions, and if we're not going to have these conditions followed, we're going to have to go back on you, and there were penalty clauses. So that's what you guys are for. She needs to go put the deals together and bring them to you.
Soccer fields are close.
Anyone else? Commissioners or anyone else?
I'll find something, John.
Oh.
If you don't mind.
As long as you do it the right way.
I never speak.
Do you live in Orange County?
I do. I live in Orange County. I work for Bridgeville Electric.
She was a wonderful employee, Ron.
I love that. I love the family. But my name is Bailey Aaron, and, being here for almost 6 months, I've read a lot. I've connected the dots. We are bringing this to a public hearing. I mean, I respect all of you. We have 2 commissioners on the board. We've got a commissioner that is benefiting, kind of, in a way, from the EDC. We've got another commissioner coming in that is very angry and disrespectful to the county employees. So I think that's why this is not.
It's not.
Hold on a second.
That's why it's a public hearing. That's all.
That's all?
And I don't make any secret that I am president of the Orange County Economic Development Corporation. Commissioner Trahan is on the board. The county has to have, as it's set up, we have to have that, the cities have the representatives.
Hang on, let's keep it quiet so we can, somebody else like to speak. Anybody else? Commissioners? Anyone? Okay, if there's no other questions, no legal information, then we're gonna go ahead and adjourn. Y'all don't have anything else, right?
Just thank everybody for coming.
Yeah, thank y'all for coming out.
I've got